welcome to Get on the Arc. So I'm here with David Sumrall, and David, nice to have you here today.
It's good to see you, my friends. Great to be here.
Yeah, so I just was invited. I guess it was just last week, right?
It was about 2 weeks
or 2 weeks ago. I was invited to. There's this film festival happening. There's these documentary films that are releasing the truth or the other side of the story, and I got really excited. I went to this event, and it was your event with my friends Robert and Jamie Agee introduced me to you, and wow, what a powerful event. So I got to meet you. You're a carpenter, filmmaker, activist, truth seeker, God-loving patriot. So
typical average everyday American, right?
That's right. Yeah. So what tell us a little bit about your journey. What got you to the film festival? I know there's a lot of backstory, so tell us a little bit about your journey.
Man, there is so much backstory. How long is this show? We could go through just saying it's long. I would say my story started at birth, as so many do. No joke, being adopted by a preacher and his wife. That's my family. It's the identity, it's the history, it's the upbringing, being in the church, all my life, that kind of the rebellion years, the exploration, the learning, the criminal record stuff, that's all real. The full circle, the marriage, the family, the divorce, the remarriage, the average American existence, I think, in a lot of ways. But the difference, I think, how many people feel like there was a big change in your life when you had kids, right? So when my wife at the time was pregnant with my son back in 1992, it was during the LA riots, and we were watching on TV as the media was saying all black people hate all white people and all white people hate all black people. And I grew up in Greenville, Texas, and we were divided by the railroad tracks, the white side of town, the black side, or the whatever socioeconomic divide of those tracks across the city. But I knew that wasn't true, man. I played, when I was a kid with everybody, it didn't matter, and always had friends of every kind of race and religion. So I knew that was something we needed to address if we're bringing a kid into a world like this. But you can't do anything to put out the fires or break up the fight. You can't throw money at it. You can't, stop what started at that point. You just have to let it burn out, which it did. And that whole Rodney King incident with the police and the acquittal, and then the Reginald Denny story of watching this guy get just, almost murdered for being in the wrong place, the wrong color at the wrong time, whatever. And these are things that America thought we were over, with the civil rights issues and things. We'd made great progress, of course. And to see the media divide us with a little piece of footage that didn't tell the whole story, I thought we needed to do something to help. So we started the Stop Hate Awareness Program, just to try to show up. And the acronym for Stop Hate is Start Turning Off Prejudice, Heal Attitudes Through Education. So it's a really simple concept, very fundamental, or basic, I guess. And it's just having those conversations, getting to know your neighbors, getting, talking to people. Maybe sometimes it's hard what you talk about, but you need to, so you're not scared of each other and all these things. So we went against groups like the KKK in the 90s, the Louis Farrakhan, the Black Panthers. It doesn't, if you're, hateful, we didn't mind standing up against you. Then I got so many death threats, and I had such a young family, I really had to back off for a couple of years. They were calling the house, we're going to burn down your house, kill your wife and kid. We know where you live, all that stuff. And it's not comfortable. So I knew from in the 90s, what that's been like to have the death threats and all. But fast forward to Trump's presidency, we did a lot of demand free speech campaigns in Washington, San Francisco, Florida. We did the awareness behind that to show what the deplatforming and the censorship was doing before it was a popular thing, before Mike Lindell got debanked, before Michelle Malkin lost her Airbnb privileges and made it more mainstream. So we've been in these fights early. We kind of have a good finger on the pulse of where America is and where we're headed, and the issues that are most important that the people identify with, maybe not the politicians or the press. And then this film fest, when January 6th happened, I made a couple of documentaries about that, 4, I guess. And Tamara Lee is on my team. She said, David, we need to host our own film fest because, there's all these left film fests or independent film fests that wouldn't ever let us get our material into them. And I thought, a conservative uh, collection would be really amazing if it told a complete story, which it does. God puts pieces of this puzzle together. So she suggested a couple of years ago that we do this, and then as the conversation went on a few months ago, I said, I think it's pressing that we do it before the election and get as much truth. I'm a carpenter, like you said in the introduction, and I know that it takes the right tools to do the best job. And the job at hand is saving America, and you can't save America without the truth. And for people to be able to have the truth in a package, and we call it the armory of truth because that's our ammunition, is the information. And so these films in this film fest tell a complete story of what it was like from COVID through the election issues, through J6, the FBI, trafficking, down to the last film, which I think Adam Riva, you just had on your program as well, the Crucible of Donald Trump. Amazing film. So we had 2 world premieres. Trafficked, J.J. Carroll, Ryan Mattis, amazing. The award ceremony, I think, to honor these folks was pertinent. It needs to happen. There's not a lot of pats on the back for these folks that spend their life and their money and their energy to build these informational documentaries and try to self-censor enough to where they won't be censored away from the public, and yet they are. So we wanted to provide a platform, for these people to get their films out, but to also show that family working together. It's amazing to have this many guys check their ego at the door and bring their stuff and just say, here, let's do this together, because there's safety in numbers, there's power and there's strength in that. And to recognize that and want to be a part of this. We started with 7 films. We ended up with 12 in just a few days because people heard what we were trying to do. And, I'm really excited about what we did. But I'm just going to ramble on for a second longer, if that's cool, brother.
Yeah.
The event itself was great, and I loved it. It was fun. We were talking about that before, and that's not the whole point of the event. It goes back to what I was saying. There is a post-edited production coming out. It is the tool. That is the tool that has all 12 films, the awards, the behind-the-scenes package with the interviews, and all kinds of things for people to learn, meet the directors, the Q&A. Panel discussion, the whole 9 yards, and for $25, so you're getting the 12 films, but the behind the scenes. You can find these films online. We're not selling the movies. You can go find them, but I can promise you it'll probably cost you $25 worth of your time to go find all 12. They're here in one place. It's easily shareable. The tool aspect comes in when you can buy a link for $25 and send it to that person that might be on the fence or that might just need to see something. And the way I tell people, Darren, is, I watch the stuff the left does because I want to see what they're putting out. I want to see their misinformation, and I want to see if there's any nuggets of truth in there or where the overlap is. They do the same with us. They watch our stuff, and they may not do it publicly, but they may do it privately. And if you send them a link, maybe they'll watch one film. Maybe that'll motivate them to watch 2 or 3 or the whole thing, or maybe you'll save their life, because that's the way I look at it. That's the way you look at it. I think that's the battle against good and evil, and this is just another sword that you can swing in that fight.
So you said that the LA riots, and you saw the media trying to divide the country. That was kind of your wake up call.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So in 2020, when the pandemic and the election was stolen, where were you at that? Was it so obvious at that time for you, or what impact did that have on your life?
It did, and actually, when I married the last time, my wife is a registered nurse, so she's in the medical industry, and I saw all these things. And being the doubter that I don't trust anyone, I'm sorry, I've just become that way. And you have to gain that, especially an entity, a government institution or whatnot. And I told her, I said, something's not right. This is not right. She said, David, it can't be. We're not that far advanced. I'm a nurse. I know these things. And I said, sweetheart, we're 100 years ahead, militarily probably from where you are in the public. And they do probably have this technology. And it all came true. And it's not that I'm a prophet or anything. It's just they're obvious about what they're trying to do to us, in my opinion. And I've seen this for a long time. I've seen the psyops. You know, it started with the LA riots, but everything since then, if you can imagine, when you know, and you can't unsee it. And so it's been frustrating for me to try to wake people up. I tried to be Switzerland for years, and my big dream was that, you know, a Republican in a Stop Hate shirt would walk up to a Democrat in a Stop Hate shirt, and they would say, "Hey, you know what? We got this. I understand now. They've pitted us against each other." That's the whole point for J6. They're dividing the country intentionally, criminalizing one side, kind of like Hillary was doing with those super predators. You know, so when you think about what the intentionality is of a system or an institution that is trying to label and manipulate, it's never for good. You know, or you wouldn't have to. You just say, "Hey, this is a good thing to do over here. Everybody, come on." And we'd say, "Hey, that's great. Let's go. Thank you for the opportunity to do good." But instead, that's not what we're doing.
Yeah. Well, it's you know, so the film festival, you let off with Trafficked,
Yes.
or Treason.
Yes.
Or I can't remember what the title was, but it was both.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's the first part. I think the series is called "What is Treason?" J.J. Carroll and Ryan Mata. But the first film in the series, the 2-part series, is Trafficked. And I can't for the life of me remember what the second one is. I feel bad.
Well, that was powerful. That was a, you know, you can hear about this, you know, so if you're just a general, you know, person on the street and you're just paying attention to the world, you know that there's this darkness, this problem that exists, but you don't realize that it's based right here, and our government is leading it, and this movie exposes all of that. It is a very great movie.
Well, I think what it exposes mainly is that we're not only leading it in America, which would be the natural thought, but we're leading it globally. And when people understand the depth, and this is the thing we learned about everything that we've ever experienced, is you can tell people all day long. A few people may listen, a few people may believe, but when you show them, they can't unsee it. And this is what Ryan and JJ and JJ have done so well. It really is an amazing film, because I've never even seen a film like this, the way that they delivered this information. So it's more, I don't know, the shock value is there, but there's even more when people find out about the trafficking and the institutions that carry out this evil. And that's what it is, good versus evil. And then when you find out that if you're building a new prison in your community, how do you know how big to make that prison? Well, you go to the foster care numbers, because that's the kids that are going to be in prison. That's the numbers. That's the percentages. That's the correlation. So we've got this total disconnect because we've been entertained away from it, man. Everything is, sports, or, kids t-ball, or Applebee's, or we're playing pool every Thursday night, or whatever it is. And I'm not trying to punch people in the face, but that's where we are. And until we take action for good, here's the thing, brother. And oh man, this is the hard part. Freedom is great, but what is freedom for? So you can be an idiot? Sure, if you want to be an idiot, freedom covers that. But freedom gives you the ability to do good. Now, how many people in the world wished they had freedom that don't? Is that so they could be a knucklehead? No, it's because they want what's good. And we have that opportunity, and we're squandering it, man. Killing me.
Well, so along your journey, and I know you were at January 6th filming the documentary of a peaceful demonstration, we were allowed to do the First Amendment, right?
Right.
And through that process, and I love your film that you did which the true timeline, or so simultaneously how all these events line up, and that was a very powerful film to watch, because it puts it all, visually. It shows you everything at the same time, what's happening, and explains of how January 6th went down.
Well, it's interesting because all that's been in my head for 4 years, and literally you take in all these cases, you take in all this information, and what do you do with it? I talked to an attorney a couple of weeks ago, and He was thanking me for it because I don't charge the defendants for research and for work and for court or for I don't charge them. It's just something that they can't afford, something I've taken upon myself. And but this attorney was saying, I really appreciate what you. I said, what else would I do with it? I've memorized all this stuff for some reason. I have no use for it other than to help people. And if that's my purpose, that's why I'm here. I'm going to do it. And it's crazy because, like I said, we can tell people for years what we experienced, what we think, what we saw, where it was or whatever. But people are getting little moments from over there and this time and that time. They don't know when and where everything fits together. And this was just, 3.5 years or whatever worth the accumulated evidence that we have, that we've tried to catalog, in some way, shape, or form, that's public access. It's none of the secret stuff. That it's just as they release videos, we add them to our list and put them in order. And we've got a massive timeline. And then you just go out and cut out the things that you don't want, to get the order in the timeline. It's actually the second timeline movie that we did. The first movie we ever did was Writing History, the journalistic battle of January 6th, and Writing with the R, writing. And it was a chronological film as well. It started actually the day before with one of the things, and then us in the morning the next day headed toward DC. So it was all in order too. The only difference was that was only citizens film, only video camera stuff like cell phone. There was no CCTV yet. It had not been really, there was no body cam yet. There was no radio. There was no what was happening inside, outside. None of that. We put that out in June of 2021. I mean, just a couple of months after January 6th. And that's when the real attacks on us began, because we were first. We were trying to get that press release of truth that 4 Americans were killed at the hands of the police action, however you want to look at it, if you want to call it homicide or murder or accident or shoulda, coulda, woulda, or negligent. I don't care what you call it, but it's their fault. And that's what we wanted to show people, because they didn't know.
Yeah. Well, it was, it was just a powerful movie, but it was a powerful event, with having all the J6ers that, there was a lot of J6ers there. There was people that had already served their prison sentence or their time in jail or served their probation. And there's people there that are still waiting on, they might potentially be going to jail. Yeah. And then of course there's Ashley Babbitt's mom. And I mean, it was just, and then there's also, spouses of people that are currently in jail. But I thought the really powerful thing was being, seeing it real, like this is real. These people did nothing wrong, and they're being attacked, and they just exercised their right to peacefully, assemble. And the 9 p.m. The prisoners singing at 9 p.m. How we participated that during this that was awesome.
Yes,
I haven't gotten to my porch yet, but I'm going to start doing that.
It's tough. It's tough, man. And just finding the time and being consistent and doing that. It's funny. I was talking to my mother-in-law yesterday, as a matter of fact, and sitting out on the back porch, and we were talking about the prisoners and their experience. And she was saying something about, the fact I'm about to go back to DC, and it's, a 21-hour drive straight if you didn't stop for a nap or gas or anything. And I said, you get 8 or 10 hours in, and you get that stir crazy feel like, I don't want to be here. I want to get out of this vehicle. I don't want to drive anymore. I'm claustrophobic. You get that thing in your body that just says, I hate this. Let me out. And then you realize, I'm like halfway there. I still have 10 or 11 hours to go.
Yeah.
Do you turn around and go home? You can't. You got to keep going. But then I always shift over and say, I can stop up here and get gas. I can walk around the car. I can go in and get something to eat. I can use the bathroom. I can do all these things that our prisoners can't do. They're stuck in a little box. You think about that feeling, being in a little box where you can't get yourself out. Nobody else can get you out. And yet, you didn't do what they accused you of doing. And brother, man, think about all the Americans that have been feeling that for decades, not J6ers, the other Americans that have been suffering these same abuses by the same system, being overcharged to get the pound of flesh, or to get them in the system or to get them paying into the monies, because that's what it's all about, is the control. And we know how this works. And we didn't do anything about it because it didn't affect our community. We thought maybe they're doing something wrong and all these things. That's their problem. It's not ours. That was our sin. And now we're stuck in the situation asking for those people's help. And they're looking at us going, you know what? I don't know, man. And I can't blame them for that. But we're at a point to where if we could see eye to eye and say, we're really no different. We're both getting bullied. Who's bullying both of us? And look upstream and really take on the aggressor for who they are. And look, there's safety in numbers, but united we stand, divided we die. And that's what they want from us. They want us to fight each other, kill each other, make their job easier, to come in and clean it up. That's the way I see it. I'm not trying to be scary or anything, but why else would they pit us against each other and try to divide the very fabric that we were cut from, down the middle with no conversation? We're not allowed to even talk about our differences. That's not America.
Well, it comes down to good versus evil. For me, it's been, this movement of this great awakening, where people are coming to God. And for me, it was in 2020 when Jesus grabbed me and I just started going where he told me to go. And I see it, more now than ever. I see that their agenda is evil and the other agenda is, it's either pick a side, pick a team.
Yeah.
But there's this movement happening, and it's awesome to see how many people across this country love God, love this country. And it's not what we're being told. It's significantly larger of a population. And so when you were at the Capitol, and I just seen the video, I wasn't there, but all I saw was, patriotic grandmas and moms and dads and brothers and cousins, just people, that love America and didn't want this election to be stolen. We just wanted a right, true election.
That's all we wanted. And literally to protest, to make your voices heard peacefully and patriotically, like Trump said, and to get down there and wait for him because he said he was coming. And everybody's packing down at the front. And the videos that I have, that I show that massive crowd all packed in on the west side doing nothing, standing there. And then the police start coming out with their tear gas guns and stuff, getting in formation. Everybody's looking around like, are they going to open fire on us or what? And then you hear people start, shoot me, what are you doing? Put your gun up. I mean, this is where it was. And the police panicked, and then once they kicked the violence off, Trump was never going to show up. He can't then. But did they ever say, hey, Trump's not coming, you people can go? No. Did they give us exit routes? No. Did they warn us they were going to attack us? No. And that's kind of how that whole Tiananmen Square happened. Yeah. They kind of blamed the protesters, imprisoned them, murdered them, blamed them, covered it up with the media. Still 20-something years later, if you talk about that there, you get in trouble. And that's what our government wanted with J6. They wanted the hush. They wanted the quiet. They wanted the control. They wanted the carnage. That's why they want to keep comparing it to 9/11 and Pearl Harbor. They want the 3,000 numbers. They want 3,000 Americans and their families destroyed and their circles and their communities. That's why they keep doing these same things. But that's why the American people have to wake up to it and say, this is intentional. And we can't allow this to happen. We have to do something. I don't know if it's called drastic or radical or permanent or, significant or memorial, something that we're going to remember, because there needs to be a lesson. Listen, the Democrats all the time say this was an unprecedented event. Yes, it was unprecedented because our government generally doesn't murder peaceful protesters, blame them, imprison them, and try to sweep it under the rug for political gain. So if you look up the definition of terrorism, which I'm going to do right now because I actually have it in my phone because I've used this so many times. Terrorism. Check this out. You're going to love this. The unlawful use of violence and intimidation. Sounds fair enough. Violence and intimidation, especially against civilians, in the pursuit of political aims. wait a minute. The unlawful use of violence and intimidation, especially against citizens in the pursuit of political aims. So basically, the definition of terrorism describes our government to the letter, and people aren't even capable of being a terrorist by that definition because we have no political aims. We want freedom. We want happy. We want healthy. We want family. We want God. That's the things they're trying to take away from us through the violence and intimidation part. Intimidation being the number one, violence being the backup, the old mob stuff, especially against civilians. And I think that's very pointed. And I think the political aims thing tells the whole story. And yet we're comfortable with our government being the terrorists and not defending those who are terrorized. That's where I turn to the church and I say, hey, church, show me that verse in the Bible where it tells me which prisoners I'm supposed to support and not support, or which widows I'm supposed to support or not, or which orphans. Because listen, all three of those people have been created by J6. Where's the support? Church? Or do you want to get spewed? Because that's an option. You know, God will spit you lukewarm ones out of his mouth. And I refuse to be in that position. I'll be hot or I'll be cold before I'm sitting in the middle like a bunch of people that go to church, not doing anything, sitting on their hands and their wallets and their letters. They could do things. And it's been 4 years, and yet you can rebuke them, you can insult them, you can beg them, you can plead with them. They're still not helping. You know how easy it would be for the church to be active and make a difference in the world? But are they? I mean, if everybody just tithed their 10%, we could take back every system that the state has taken from us, from welfare to elderly care to child care to foster care to adoption. We could do it all within the church body itself if we just did the minimum requirement that God asked us to do, but we won't. That's frustrating to me. So there's on and on about that stuff, man.
Well, it's also, you know, that is so true. And it's, you know, we have, the church has the power, and church being us, the body of Christ, we, the people, you know, whatever walled church you attend, we're all part of the church.
Well, there's 400,000 churches in America, basically. There's 400,000 foster kids. Can anybody else in America that goes to church do math and say that if every church took one kid, that we wouldn't have that foster issue? But it's not worth it because it may inconvenience you and you may have to skip your Sunday football game, or you might run out of coffee at the church coffee shop. Is that what it is? See, I'm so tired, man. Just the way it is.
Well, you know, it's also, David, I don't know if you've thought this, but, you know, they've labeled these J6ers, these insurrectionists, that, you know, they came to take over the, you know, not a single one of them had a weapon.
No.
If you're not very good insurrection, I mean, if you're going to be an insurrectionist, if you're going to go take over something, you're going to bring weapons, right?
Well, a couple of people had weapons. They sure didn't use them. They didn't brandish them. They didn't pull them out. They didn't threaten anyone. They didn't do anything like the police did. They pulled them out. They threatened them. They pointed at people, and they shot and they murdered people. But, you know, no repercussion. They can work with pure, you know, impunity. They not even question, no police report, nothing. Do what you want. Shoot them, kill them, maim them, poke them, hit them, stab them. Oh. You're good. We got your back. And that's exactly what they did. Yeah. That's kind of where we are. And now that the public's waking up to that, you know, I was on a show the other day and they said, what would happen if they released all the video? I said, Americans all would be on their way to DC, but they wouldn't be going empty handed this time, because there's a certain point where I think the people are going to say, we're done. We're done. And we tried to do this every other way that we could, but you wouldn't. And you wouldn't listen. You wouldn't represent us. You wouldn't go to bat for us. You wouldn't defend us. You wouldn't help us. You wouldn't serve us. You wouldn't listen to us. So you got to go. And you know, I don't know whatever happened to tar and feathers and rails. I you know, back in the day, those were some of the things that you could suffer if you did your constituents wrong. There were very harsh repercussions for some of those things, and those were true things. I mean, they used to have duels in the Senate, right? If you had a beef with, so you could go shoot Hamilton if you want to.
Right.
Let's bring back all that stuff and see who's ready to defend America and defend and work for Americans. Because that's where it meets the road, bro. And the people that are in there to serve themselves. And when they're there to act, it's not on their own behalf. They're supposed to act for us. But who does? We hear a lot of lip service from guys like Paul Ryan or Trey Gowdy back in the day. And now it's Gates and Green and everything. You know, I've heard from them too. And I was at the field hearing a year ago, and bless their hearts, Marjorie Taylor Greene got up there and Matt Gaetz got up there and said, we're working with David Sumrall. He has the biggest video collection of J6, you know, outside of the government or whatever. And we're working with him. And they got on TV and said that, press, and they did it in the hearing, and then they did it out in the hall. They never called me. We never worked together. We never did it. What are y'all lying for, man? What are y'all lying for, saying we're working together like we're friends and stuff? Y'all never work with me. You never call. You never ask. I have everything, and I've had it for years, and we've spoken about it multiple times, but you've done nothing. So who do you represent? Or is it all about the next campaign? Why are they kicking the can down the road? All these things play in. But one thing I want to touch on that you mentioned again that I forgot earlier, the First Amendment. You know, the whole reason for the 1A Film Fest, the First Amendment that they've stolen from these January 6ers. So the first thing that the prosecutor says in court is, Your Honor, I move that we take away their ability to use the First Amendment in their defense. What? Yeah, so people, that's a real thing. Just so you know, God-given rights can be taken by this government. The DOJ can say, we're bigger than God. You don't have that right. Even though you were there to protest, or you were there with the media, or to redress your grievances, or to gather in a big group, or for your religion to pray to God to save this country, all those reasons are off the record. That's why they have such a high kill rate. That's why people are having to take pleas instead of go to prison, because they can't use the reason they were there to defend themselves in that First Amendment. It's the first motion they make. It's the first one accepted. And from then on, we have you there. You're on video. This is you, right? Then you were here to overthrow the government. Were you not? No. I was here to, you can't say that. Oh, what do I do? Well, you're going to jail for 20 years. Or if you take this plea deal and let us get some more points on the board, we'll just put you in jail for 3 years. Oh, man, I don't want to go to jail for 20 years. And I can't say when I was there. So, okay, man, I'll take the 3 years. That's how they've gotten 800 pleas and put 300 people through prison. That's how that works. You know, 1,500 cases, and they want to double that easily. We've heard talk of 5,000 people that they want, that they've already identified, that were on the grounds, that they've been tracking since the other events and other Stop the Steal rallies in months before January 6th, the geo-fencing, tracking, all that stuff. It's real. That's our big brother government surveillance system. I had to fire Daniel Goodwin, my employee that was there at J6, because they threatened spyware on his computers and stuff for his probation. What? He didn't use a computer when he walked through an open door at the Capitol for 37 seconds. He didn't use a computer. Oh, well, he said things that were misinformation before. By whose standard? Who's the judge of that, judge? Because I see that as propaganda and control and manipulation the same every time, because it is. The judge got mad because Daniel got in his court and said Ashley Babbitt, Roseanne Boylan, Kevin Greason, and Brian Sicknick and Benjamin Phillips' deaths have all been lied about, and here's the truth, and here's what I, you better stop doing that in my courtroom. You're digging your hole deeper. And why didn't you say on Tucker Carlson that you were outside telling people that we need mass numbers in here? If we're going to do this, we need a lot of people to come in here. To do what? Be peaceful? Sit down? Do a protest? These judges are so bad. It's so crooked. And they're depriving people of their constitutional rights given to us by God in the First, the Fourth, multiple amendments. But here's the way that works. There's a penalty for that. There's a penalty for deprivation of constitutional right. And it's quite severe for the average citizen. If I deprive you of your constitutional rights, it could get really serious depending on the severity of my infraction. Well, these judges are in positions of power that we cannot even reach. So what happens to them must be 10 times worse. So I got in trouble and got an FBI visit because I said one of the judges needed to suffer the fullest extent of the law. And if that was this specific thing, then I want to see it. I want to see it happen. It needs to happen. That's what. So people remember that you can't do this to Americans. This is unprecedented. We need something memorable, unfortunately. And it's not me. And I say it all the time. I'm not the judge. I'm not the jury. I'm definitely not the executioner. I want all this legal, above board, by the majority of American citizens that believe this is the right thing to do. It's not my call, but I can definitely be a good consultant. So if anybody needs help, and look, I don't want to do all that stuff, but I can arrange the meeting. And that's what needs to happen. We've tried to put this information out for 4 years. People are killing themselves because of January 6th, because of the pressure from the DOJ. If you go to stophate.com, scroll down, there's a death article that has the 5 victims, and there's a death count article.
You said stophate.com?
Stophate.com. And if you scroll, you'll see a little bar that turns, and it's got the death articles. Keep going down there. Those top 4 are movies, and then keep going. Maybe it's just below that. Yeah, no, it's back up. I'm sorry. That's stacked different on your website. Right under the worded one. Yeah, right there. J6 death count. There you go. Because that rotates through. So there's the Constitution video.
Yeah.
At the bottom of the page, down one.
Okay, yeah, right here.
There's the 5 deaths and a feast for the vultures video. There's really really carefully curated and proven material in our research. We don't speculate. I've corrected our own stories several times because we did have misinformation from witness testimonies. It happens. There's a lot of confusion that day. We've done our best to sort it out. And I think that our record probably is the best in the business as far as what we've, exposed and what we've been right about, and the material that we've put out, and the tools that we've provided for the average American to share this information. Because, man, in 2021, people barely knew Ashley Babbitt had died or how, thought she was a bad guy. So just know that now they know Roseanne Boylan and Lila Moore's story. They know Kevin Greason down in the front of West. They know Benjamin Phillips never received the aid that he was so desperately needed. So these stories are important for Americans to have the proper emotional response that they were robbed of, because the media covered. Look, if we're going to do anything as a country, we got to do it together, united. And if we need to be emotional, then we need to be emotional together. If we need to be upset, then we need to be upset together and learn how to resolve this as a team, as a family, and say, hey, enough's enough. But if half the family doesn't even know what George did, then we need to expose him. We need to explain, and we need to show why it's important that it know. So it's a long thing, man. It's taken decades to get to where we are, and it's not going to fix itself overnight. But it takes action, like we always talk about. It's the most important thing.
So people need to go to 1A Film Fest. They can get the $25 12 film package that they can share with their inner circle or their influence, their friends, family, and so forth.
That's right. 1afilmfest.com and host your own watch party. That's really what we want you to do. And you're paying the $25 for the link. So invite 10 people or 20 people or 100 people. If you get a big group, you don't have to pay $25 per person. Just get the link. Now, we're going to ask people, hey, if you're watching this for free, can you support the efforts? Can you buy a copy for yourself so you can download it and keep it and show your friends and do your own watch? Please, everybody do that. Then we can continue putting out material like this, doing events like this, because it's not just for fun and games and patting each other on the back. We are building the tools for the armory of truth to educate the public, to save America. No kidding. That's where we are. And it sounds pretty and sounds easy. It's a lot of work, and we need everybody to be active. Get a link, share them. And look, we've had people say we want to donate, and we're not set up. You can give to one of the nonprofits, American Gulag Chronicles, whatever, and that's fine. You can designate your gifts or whatever. But we encourage people, if you want to give $100, buy 4 tickets and give them to someone. Yeah, we need the $100. Sure, we can appreciate that. But 4 more people need the information just as much or more. So don't think that if you just throw money at us, yes, we'll continue working for you and do the heavy lifting and be there when we need to. Yes. But the information is so much more important. You have an opportunity to save someone's life, change someone's life, expose them to what they've been missing in truth, that literally for their family's sake. This is how important it is to us because we live it, we experience it.
Absolutely. Well, David, thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate you, just having this conversation and sharing all this stuff with us.
Hey, it's been really fun. I need to nail you down that you'll be at the next event. And
absolutely.
We're always looking for sponsors. We need to put people up there that are, who we showcased last time. It's the people that are active, that are putting the points on the board, that we have vetted and approved and know and have a relationship. We don't just throw anybody up there. So it's been really great to meet you and to have you there. It was really a bonding time, I think, for all of us that were there. And like you said, it was a great lineup of guests that kind of showcased. And, like we were talking about before, they're handpicked. I mean, they're our family. They're the people that are in the movement, or the families of, or that are, in prison or not. And so many people couldn't come because they can't be around other J6ers, or they can't travel because they're on probation, or they're still in prison, or they've got a court date. So many people couldn't be there that need to be there, that should have been there. And we hope that by having these twice a year or more, that more and more people can plug in. We can have these, reunion moments almost, not just for J6ers, but for everyone that's been suffering through what is modern America. And I think that's that family unit that we're trying to build and developing. And it's back to the basics, back to God, and back together. And I think that's the mission of 1afilmfest.com and unredacted.media, to really bring those stories that have been hidden and censored, give these people a platform because their work is so important to share, and then to give people an opportunity to use those tools in a very cost-effective, simple, easy to use kind of format, or culture thing. Films are easy. A lot of people won't have a conversation or go to a rally, but to watch a movie because they're fun and or informative. So listen, Darren, I appreciate you having me on here, brother. I hope to do it again real soon, and I will definitely keep you in the loop on when our next film fest is.
Thanks. I'm looking forward to it. And thanks again.